And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome aboard on this Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. This is your Alaska Marine Weather Outlook. I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan, and we'll start out with the sea ice. The ice is located now generally just northeast of the Pribilovs, at least the more substantial pack ice, but you can kind of see the ragged edge of the ice. It kind of goes from around St. Matthew down between St. Paul and Kuskokwim Bay. Of note, though, we've had some very cold air up over the Chukchi Sea Bering Strait area, and that is going to break loose later Thursday night and Friday and plunge southward. So there may be a drift of this ice back south again starting Friday and especially over the weekend. We're going to have a pretty strong low pressure area, broad circulation develop as that cold air crosses the Aleutians and then develops and re-intensifies the mid-level low circulation that's been sitting over the Western Gulf and North Pacific. It's going to shift it a little westward. So we're going to have some stronger offshore flow down here. However, north-northwest flow on the backside of the low will be quite strong, and we're looking at the potential for a late season winter storm. We're talking about snow, blowing snow, Pribilovs down across the Aleutians, especially eastern central Aleutians, so stay tuned to later forecast. As far as the weather map, later this Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we still have the general circulation in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. This is a collection of surface lows. They're not especially strong. Another one will rotate out of the North Pacific up over Haida Gwaii on Thursday afternoon and spread more precipitation, especially across the southern panhandle. Later tonight into Thursday morning, we'll have another push of moisture into Turnagain Arm and the area along the eastern Kenai, western part of Prince William Sound. So there's going to be some additional snow accumulations, especially Turnagain Pass. Portage Glacier, Whittier could pick up several inches of wet snow as a result of that. And here's the hint. Here comes the next system off the Asia continent. That's heading southeastward across the Bering by Thursday. It'll be approaching areas just southwest of St. Matthew. That's going to begin to pull down the Arctic air that is sitting up here over the Chukchi Sea and Bering Strait. This morning, Selawik was down to 24 below zero, and even as of mid-afternoon, there are a number of temperatures here along the Chukchi Sea coast that have not risen above zero despite sunshine and the stronger April sunshine. So Thursday afternoon, we still have this lingering low pressure along the Kenai coast, keeping precipitation going there along the intercoastal mountains. And again, that other low that pulls up near Haida Gwaii and forces some more precipitation or enhances the showers there across, especially the southern panhandle. Then for Friday, that cold air is now making its way down across the Aleutians, especially as we get into Friday night and Saturday morning. That's going to link up with this North Pacific low, and the two systems will come together, and we'll have a system on Saturday afternoon over the central Alaska Peninsula that will have cold air, wind-driven snow on the backside, and a front with more precipitation that's going to work up into the Gulf and Panhandle over the weekend. So stay tuned to later forecasts on that one. But in the meantime, north-northwest winds, inner channels of the southeast there, 15-20 knots, waves running a few feet, 2-3 feet there, Lynn Canal and Stevens Passage, up to 4 feet. You get outside of Metlakatla, Dixon Entrance. The rest of the area, look at east-northeast offshore flow, 15 knots, Sitka down to off of Craig, Prince of Wales Island with waves 7-8 feet. Outside of the icy strait, Yakutat Bay, generally easterly winds 25 knots, could even be as high as 35 knots in a few areas with waves up to 8 feet. For Friday, the winds are out of the southerly component. Southwest here, Dixon Entrance to 20 knots, 7-foot waves, and then south-southeast winds 15 to 20 knots. Stevens Passage up through Lynn Canal with waves of 3 to 4 feet, and the outer coast generally westerly winds outside the icy strait down to Prince of Wales Island, and we're looking at 15 to 20 knots, waves 6 to 8 feet there, more south-southwesterly, 15 knots outside of Yakutat Bay and Cape Suckling. Northwest Gulf, east winds 20 knots within Prince William Sound on Thursday. East winds also outside of Hinchinbrook Entrance to 20 knots. As we go down the length of Cook Inlet, north winds 10 to 15 knots, increasing northwesterly to 25 knots there out of Kamishak Bay into Kennedy Entrance with waves running 4 to 5 feet. For Friday, because we have this weak lingering areas of low pressure, variable winds only around 10 knots along the eastern Kenai coast and outside of Hinchinbrook entrance. Otherwise, southeast winds to 15 knots off of Kayak Island and within the wider expanse of Prince William Sound. Winds will be northeasterly 10 knots upper Cook Inlet, but turning westerly to 20 to 25 knots along and outside of Hinchinbrook entrance. Across Kodiak Island Thursday, west-northwest winds 20 to 25 knots, generally northwest winds across the Alaska Peninsula, with waves running 2 to 4 feet on the North Pacific side, 3 to 5 feet on the Bering side. Come Friday, those winds are going to begin to try to turn to the east. Still southwesterly 15 knots, Shelikof Strait and on the east side of Kodiak Island. But as we go down along the Alaska Peninsula, winds will be out of the east, picking up anywhere from 20 to 25 knots because we have that other low that's going to begin to come northward while a batch of cold air dives quickly southward toward the Aleutians. That'll show up nicely here. So we have north winds to 15 knots, far eastern Aleutians on Thursday in the vicinity of Dutch Harbor on Alaska, variable Nikolsky at 10 knots, but then the winds turn easterly, generally around 20 knots, Atka, Adak westward. But then Friday, you can see the hints of that shot of stronger winds and colder air that's dropping south. And notice winds, the first cold front comes through and turns winds northeast to northerly right around 30 knots across much of the Aleutian chain for Friday afternoon. But the core of colder air and some stronger winds and higher waves will be working their way southward for Friday night and on early Saturday morning. Now along the southwest coast, we have north-northwest winds within Kuskokwim, Bristol Bay. Waves only a foot or two, variable winds around the Pribilofs at 10 knots. And then along the lower Yukon coast into Norton Sound, look for north-northwest winds about 10 knots. But here's this low that's going to skirt just west of Nunavik Island towards St. Matthew. And on the backside of that, we have northerly gales of 35 knots, St. Matthew southwestward, and that's going to be moving into the along the Pribilofs for Friday evening. And again, it's a quick hitting shot of colder Arctic air driving southward. Winds turn easterly off the southwest coast, 20-knot east winds within Kuskokwim Bay and Bristol Bay. East-northeast winds 15 knots out of Norton Sound and along the lower Yukon. And then for the Bering Strait Thursday, winds will generally be light westerly, just 5 knots along the west side of the Seward Peninsula and in the vicinity of St. Lawrence Island. Light winds going up through the Chukchi Sea, generally out of the north-northwest, 5 to 10 knots. And then kind of a mixed bag of winds from Utqiagvik to Kaktovik. Winds will be northeasterly at Utqiagvik, be southwest to west, Prudhoe Bay to Kaktovik at just 10 knots. And then on Friday, along the Beaufort Sea coast, generally easterly winds 10 to 15 knots. Northeasterly down along the area from Wainwright to Cape Lisburne, turning back to the west into Kotzebue Sound 5 to 10 knots. And then passing through the Bering Strait Friday, we expect to see winds 5 to 10 knots from along the coast there of the Seward Peninsula at Wales and Port Clarence to the north side of St. Lawrence Island Friday there at Gamble and Savunga.